Let's go!
Before we start, I would like to thank the frontline workers, the paramedics, the policemen, and the fire people. I tell you, they for the work they are doing during the virus. I'm going to call it the virus, and wish them all a Merry Christmas. And all I'm saying is, it must be tough. Just hang tough.
Yep. Well, welcome to the Grapevine. This is kind of our Christmas edition. You know, next this will be the podcast before Christmas. And Dad, you want to talk about it if you're still looking for a Christmas gift?
Yeah,
you got a good one, a good book.
Yes, sir. Hockey's Hot Stove. It's by Al Strachan, The Untold Stories of the Original Insiders. I read it in 2 days. It was one of those books. I'll just start the chapter and.
Did you learn anything?
I didn't know. I knew. I used to really like that when him and Milbury used to go at it.
Yeah, Al Strachan was, a lot of people, maybe they don't remember him. He used to come on after the second period, between the second, and it usually was Al Strachan and Mike Milbury, and sometimes he was with John Davidson. He was on, and boy, they were good because they ended up not liking each other, and Al wouldn't back down, and he'd antagonize Mike Milbury and Davidson, and they just get going. And it was great TV. It really was great TV.
Yeah, they weren't all in love with each other like everyone is nowadays.
Yeah, it wasn't one agreement fest. It was, in fact, I think if Mike Milbury said black, Al said white just to get him going.
Yeah, he was on the Hot Stove. He was on the Untold Stories. It's a great book. Al's in the media for Hockey Hall of Fame. He was a Toronto Star. He was with the Toronto Star. Excuse me, Al. I know you listen. He was on the Sun. He was in the Globe and Mail, and he was in the Montreal Gazette. I think he was there when the Trivial Pursuit. What do you call that?
Trivial Pursuit. Yeah.
And he used to. The guy went around. Imagine the guy went around and says, "Look, I'm going to start out a new game," and he says, "Put $500 in. Can you help me out with $500?" And I think Al was there. I mean, be worth millions now. Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah, Scott Abbott, I think it was his name.
That guy?
Yeah, he ended up. He's the guy that bought the
Brampton
Battalion.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, he was right. And he was the guy that took all the first round draft choices. We got the second. Yeah. But I have to admit,
we won the Eastern Conference, and Brampton never did. So there you go.
Well, you're in Trivial Pursuit. They included a question.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right, Tim.
Yep.
I remember when everyone had that game. Everyone went out at Christmas and bought that game, so we were throwing it, and we're playing it. And lo and behold, there's a Don Cherry question.
Holy smokes!
And it was, what is Don Cherry's dog's name?
Oh, I hope everybody knew.
They did. Well, our family did.
I remember, Al. This is a true story. We're in Ottawa or Montreal. It must have been in Montreal. And the night before, we're having a few beers, and Dave Hodge was there. Dave Hodge knows a lot about I thought I knew something about metric. And Dave Hodge knows quite a bit about metric. And he was just burying me. Bang, bang. He was questioning. I couldn't answer. And Al just sat there having a beer. And all of a sudden, he started. He knows metric and
they say guys are the smartest guys in the room. Well, Al is.
He is one of the
smartest guys in the room.
And he just, I never forgot. So the next morning, somebody had given me a lovely cross pen, one of those, in the
good cross pen, yeah.
So I was leaving with Ron and everybody. We were going to, I don't know, I guess we're going to the airport. And I saw Al sitting alone in the breakfast. And I said, "Here, Al, this is for you for rescuing me last night." And he didn't even know what I was talking about. I said, "You rescued me," and he is the smartest guy.
Well, he's a smart. His claim to fame with you is that I just couldn't believe that you and him traveled together. Didn't you guys go to England?
This is unbelievable. In the airport, there must have been 2,000. I landed there, and they're very polite and everything, and I got through. And I actually saw Al coming up the stairs. And what's that at the airport over there?
Heathrow.
And it must have been a zillion people, and there was Al. And I'd stayed up all night reading all the way over, and we hit every pub and
you got to stay up, right? Because if you don't, then your body clock gets out of whack. But you want to go to bed. But Al made you stay up.
Yeah, he stayed up, and he said, "No, you stay up and then go to bed that night." And Al, we hit every pub. We hit every, Lord Nelson. We hit every
museum.
Yeah, every place. We hit them all. And I always liked him and Ludzik and Steve Kuzik. I forget. I can never pronounce his last name. Anyhow, that was a good show, and they cancel it. I never forget they cancel it and put on wrestling. And I don't think they charge very much, Al.
Well, I think, a guy like Al and a guy like Mike, who got in a bit of trouble this year, and I think you guys are the last controversial guys.
Yeah.
I think now everybody is. I mean, Brian Burke's good, but I don't know how controversial he gets. He
knows what's going on.
He knows. No, Brian, of all the guys on Hockey Night in Canada, Brian Burke knows the most what's going on.
Yeah, he does.
But I mean, controversial wise, I don't think you're not going to see that anymore.
Well, Al got in a lot of trouble, and
the Leafs got mad at him.
Leafs got mad at him, and
because what did he say?
Well, he wrote a book called
"Why the Leafs Sucked" or something like that,
and how they
that'll
get
do
better. Him and Milbury, we used to be really good, and he'd just say things to get Milbury going. Anyhow, it's a good book, and you'll really like it. It's called it's really good. Hockey's Hot Stove: The Untold Stories of the Original Insiders. And I remember I used to watch that all the time, and I'll just sit there quietly and get Milbury going. And
well, it doesn't take much to get Mike going, because you know very well. I mean, imagine being a fly on the wall with you guys in the car going to the practices in Boston. You had these very deep conversations. And who was your favorite movie star?
One day I said I liked I like John Wayne. And he said, "I don't like." You don't like John Wayne?
Yeah. Well, in case people didn't know, Mike, we lived in North Andover, so it was about a 45-minute drive in, and Mike Milbury.
2 doors down.
Moved 2 doors down.
Yeah, and boy, that was a nice little spot. I bought my house on an auction.
Yeah, but you know what the funny thing is, though, Dad? Like all the Bruins used to come over. Like Terry O'Reilly came over, and Peter McNabb, and Schmatzy, and Brad Park came over sometimes, and Stan, and they'd all come over and play tennis and go swimming. And Mike never came over.
No, that's true
When
too.
you think about, you know what? I never thought of it that way. They lived 2 doors down, and he never came over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
never come over once.
But yet you guys would drive in for the morning skate.
I'd pick him up. It's quite a drive.
Should we tell? I don't know if we told the weed story. Should we tell the weed story?
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
So we used to drive in all the time, and there's many stories I could tell. I used to practice all the time my speech, before the game, or if I was mad or something like that.
We practice on Mike.
I'll tell you one thing. Yeah, I practice on Mike going in, and the one thing I said, this guy, and when I heard that he was going to be the representative of the Bruins to Al Eagleson's,
the NHL player rep.
Whoa! I said you won't push him around, because Mike is.
Well, he's an American.
Well, I'll quickly tell that story if you want. Like from what we heard, this is what we heard. We don't know how accurate, but Alan Eagleson, when the NHL Players Association got together, if any of the Canadian players, who were most of them, asked anything, Milbury or Eagle would just yell at them and sit down, and what do you know? You're just a dumb hockey.
I'll tell you how bad it was. That he hollered at Terry, and Terry couldn't go up. And when Al Eagleson would come in our dressing room, Terry would leave.
Yeah, so he would yell, and that's how he kind of controlled it. And then I think Terry gave it up, and Mike came in.
Yeah, and Mike took over.
And Mike's an American and
college
guy. And Mike asked a question, and Eagleson told him to shut up and all that. And Milbury says, "If you tell me to shut up, I'm going to go up there and kill you." And Eagleson told him to shut up, and Mike was on his way up to the thing, and the players had to hold him back.
Yeah.
And they said that was kind of the first little bit of a chink in the armor, because then the rest of the guys said, "Yeah, well, why aren't you asking that question?"
Yeah, it was a good. Mike was. It was.
That's what we heard was the first little chink, the first guy to kind of stand up to. And other people argue, but that's what we heard. That was Milbury. But tell about the weed story.
So we used to drive in all the time, and you used to see this weed driving. It was just before the bridge, and it was a weed. And I said,
on the side of the road on Route 1.
Yeah, in the middle of the road.
No, it was on the side.
Oh, okay.
And it was by the thing, and I say, "See that weed?" I said, that weed has grown with all the salt and all the cars and everything. That's the kind of guy. I really like that weed. Every morning, I said, see the weed's still there. It's still there. And every morning I drive in. So so the spring came, and we're on the far side. Now get this, we're on the far side of the bridge, or driving over. And I said, the weed I think is going to be, because the guy was coming along with the machine,
to clean the side of the road.
Yeah, clean the side of the road. And I says, I think our weed is going to bite the dust. I says, he stopped the car. Stop the car. I had to stop the car in Route 1, and if you've ever been in Route 1 in Boston, and he danced across and got the weed, dug it up, and he says, nobody's touching our weed.
Yeah. So you were lucky. I could just see Bruin defenseman Mike Milbury hit by a car rescuing a weed.
And then I took it home, and I planted it, because I wanted to eat. And I come on the next day, and I said, said to Rose, I said, where's the weed? She said, I just threw it away.
Yeah, Mom was weeding.
I found an old weed and I threw it away. And
I think the one story I remember about you and Mike was after I think it was after a playoff victory. I think you beat Philly or you beat LA, and the next morning Mom came down and you and Mike had stopped at Kowloon's. And had something to eat, and in the canary cage.
Oh, we had a big canary, green canary.
There was spare rib bones sticking. There was the canary eating, picking the meat off the spare rib bones.
We had a meat-eating canary.
Oh, it was a big. And I ever tell you about that canary? When I was coming back to Canada from Colorado, and he was pretty good. You remember him, Sydney?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he could sing pretty good. He was big.
Well, we call him John.
John Wensick.
The next canary you got to remember, you called the next canary? Matson.
Yeah, he sings when he wants to
He sings when he wants to. But the original canary was named John.
Yeah, and he could sing. And so I could get blue across the border, but I don't think I could get a bird across the border. That would be pretty tough. I must tell you how I got blue across the border. So, and Detroit guy. So I went to a guy that really raised canaries, that he had a great big cage, and he used to let them. And I said, look, and I explained the whole situation to him. And I said, I got this beautiful canary. It was a big green one, eh? And I said, I'm going to give you $50. They'll pay for his food. And I want him to fly in amongst all the rest of the canaries that you got loose there. I said, you promised me. And he says, I promised you. And I said, here's $50 for his food. And I left that canary. I felt so bad leaving that canary. But I looked back, and he was flying in amongst all his friends, so he was okay.
Yeah, well, I remember going from Boston to Colorado. We didn't want to give him up, so we made a little cage.
I made it.
Yeah, you made it out of popsicle sticks, and I brought him onto the plane, and he started to sing. He started to sing on the plane. Everybody's like, "What's going on?" It's like a bird singing. I had a little piece of lettuce from the meal, and I would feed him to keep him quiet. But he was singing.
I wonder where.
Well, the bird got on the plane, but Blue didn't get on the plane. Remember you and I driving across the country because of Blue? You didn't want to put Blue on the plane.
No, I would never put. I'm the only guy that turned down $25,000, and I think it was I forget what. And if I had flown Blue, and the original Blue, I would have got $25,000. I said, well, Blue can't fly. I said they put them in the. I said, no, if he was a little smaller, I guess you could take him first class. But I said no. I inquired, they were going to put him in the hole. I said nobody puts Blue in the hole.
Yes.
Anyhow, Milbury and Al Strachan in the book. It's a great book, and you'll have fun reading it.
Yep. So, Dad, we just want to acknowledge our sponsor, Spreads.ca, First Nations own online casino and sportsbook. It's tailored to Canadians. Sign up now and enter the promo GRAPES, and they'll match your deposit up to $500. You get 15 spins on the big wheel, and your first sports bet, they'll give you $25 for a first sports bet. So I think you can bet on the juniors. So I'll have to see.
Sure,
and so
speaking of Team Canada, I would like to the coach for and what was his name, Tim? You've got it right.
Andre Tournay.
And he coached the Ottawa 67s, and he saw Shane Wright. I'm not getting on that thing again, but I just can't understand anybody that's seen Shane Wright play. Because believe me when I tell you, folks, about 3 or 4 years from now, because he won't be around. I know the league is a 19-year-old. I know that the team is for 19-year-olds, but this guy is an exceptional. And And he won't be around 19.
No, he won't.
He'll be in the National League.
Yeah, and the other thing too with Canada, I mean, not making excuses for him, but the number one pick, Lafreniere, is not going to be there.
Yeah.
And then I was watching a Bob McKenzie, who I do listen to. I think he knows what he's talking about.
He does.
He said the number one guy this year it's ranked in the NHL draft is a guy named Powers. And remember we used to see him play. He played for the Reps. He was a big guy, big defenseman.
Yeah.
And he's not. He couldn't make it for some reason because of school or something like that.
I don't understand that. I mean, if guy is good enough, I don't care.
No, he didn't even. No, he said he couldn't come. Like he plays in the NCAA, and the Michigan wouldn't let him go, and all that. Yeah. So they really could have had how good their team is, the powerhouse time. They could have had a thing, but I look at their division, if you want to call it division or group. So they have Canada, Finland, which Finns are always tough.
Finns are always good.
Slovaks and Germany. And then you look at the other one, it's Russia, Sweden, US, and Czechs. Yeah. But that's any one of those teams could get knocked out.
Yeah. Well, Team Canada, I get so nervous watching them, and it's the one thing I really get nervous because, again, I won't get into Shane Wright again, but anyhow, though, you people in Kingston, you get to watch him because he won't be around. He won't pay for he'll be in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, well, and they named captain was Kirby Doc.
Yep.
He's from St. Albert, Alberta, and played for the Blades, and was the third pick overall for the Hawks. And looks like they're going to be leaning on him to be the big.
Well, he's supposed to be the leader. When you're the captain, you got to be the leader, and when you're the captain. I was the captain one year, and we won the call. When we were in Quebec, I remember I was let's see, it was Quebec. We were again. I remember Jim Morris. I'm so sick of shaking your hand. He was in Baltimore the year before.
But that's when captains were really voted for. There was a big difference between the captains in your day and the captains now.
Well, the team voted.
Yeah, the team, which is a big. Now, who picks the captain of the team?
Well, they picked. No, I'm not getting into that again. But they picked the captain. The team. I remember Joe Crozier, and I was, and you have to have ballots. They had ballots and everything. So you wrote on the name I mean, Brian Hextall and Teddy Taylor were in the running too. And so I was like 17 out of 20 or something like that. They wanted me as captain because they knew I was always in trouble with Joe Crozier.
And you would stick up for them.
Well, anyhow, whatever. And so they voted for me, but he didn't want me. Joe Crozier didn't want me. So he'd go in the back and He come out, and I remember he says, get that captaincy straightened out. And he threw all the ballots in the box that I won. So now
it's kind of like the U.S. election.
Yeah, well, we won't go into that again. I gotta stop watching Fox. I get too upset. But so they voted now. Now they saw that he didn't. They
really didn't want you.
He didn't want me. So they drew cherries on it and. Cherry's your captain, and he threw the things, and so after every, he's okay. Everybody, and I remember when we go someplace, and we get on the bus all the time, and he'd say, "All right, everybody in their rooms by 11 o'clock. Don't forget, we got a big game tomorrow night. All that stuff. And Cherry, I want to see you in my suite." Somebody had done something wrong, and he blamed me and everything. But Joe Crozier's a good coach, and
speaking of Joe Crozier. And we'll get into the NHL stuff in a couple of minutes, but I remember you and I, Cindy, have always talked about on a Christmas Eve, Dad got into a big fight and thing, and I was trying to find the article on that, but I didn't find that fight. But the one that we also remember was the one where you fought Brian
Bugsy
Watson,
and
you were in Rochester, he was in Quebec, and so I was looking through the Democrat and Chronicle archives, and the headlines were Cherry fined $175 for brawl.
Yeah, it was just $75.
$175.
That's a lot of money then.
I looked at it,
especially when you're making how much a year?
Yeah, I know, but I hate to tell you, the club paid it.
Yeah. So you want me to read? So I'll read it. You want me to read what the article
about?
Yeah, go ahead. That? So this is the article by Hans Tanner. And it goes, a haymaker such as Amherst Don Cherry landed on Quebec's Brian Watson here Sunday night would have won a good buck for any professional boxer, but it cost Cherry $175 to toss the bomb that blew what had just been a routine hockey game into total conflict. American Hockey League President Jack Riley reviewed 2 television films of the third period brawl.
Jack Button, he was the assistant general manager. I remember now, and he's with the what's the guy's name?
Craig Button.
Craig Button, yeah, that was his dad. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
So he was
he was Jack Riley's assistant.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he goes, so go on. It goes, the third period ball and talked about Cherry and Watson yesterday before levying a $100 fine on the Rochester defenseman. No suspension was included, so Cherry will be available for the 4th game tonight in the best of 7 Calder Cup semi-playoffs finals where the Amherst have a 2-1 lead. And it goes, Amherst general manager Joe Crozier said ruling was very fair and indicated Cherry would see more action tonight than he had in recent weeks. In addition, Cherry was fined $100. Riley also fined goaltender Jerry Cheevers, and they always spelled Jerry Cheevers' name wrong. They always spelled it with a J. Jerry Cheevers for $50 for leaving the net and entering the fight, and accessing Quebec's Terry Gray $25 for leaving the bench and joining the altercation.
I can't see Jerry Cheevers fighting. Wow, that's
So it goes on. After viewing the films, talking with Don Cherry, Brian Watson, and referee Vern Buffy, there was no doubt in the mind that Cherry was the instigator of the fight in the penalty box, which spilled back onto the ice and could have resulted in serious trouble, Riley said. And he added Watson still had to pay $75 for his 10-minute game misconduct. The film showed Cherry threw down his gloves on the ice, skated to the penalty box without them, and stood fists clenched and sleeves rolled up, waiting for Watson to enter the penalty box.
And I'll tell you the story.
And this was on TV, folks, remember.
So this, we'll do one more thing and then we'll go. But since no sticks were involved, a suspension is not called for, Riley said. I told both Cherry and Watson not to get into the idea about trying to use their hockey sticks on each other, and both said the same thing. They don't need sticks. They can do well enough with their fists.
Oh.
The AHL boss who attended Sunday's game will be here tonight and said the evidence was inconclusive regarding a stick swinging between Amherst's Jimmy Papin and Quebec's G. Gendron.
G. Gendron.
And notified both would be severely dealt with if it happened again. So then it goes on. But that.
Well, I'll tell you what happened there. I went at the training camp. I'm going way back, and I hit a guy named Leger. I'll never forget it. In Shawinigan Falls, and I hurt my knee, and I couldn't get back in the lineup. I mean, let's see. We had Larry Hillman, we had Al Arbor, Darryl Slide, Dwayne Rupp, and I was like the 5th guy. They were playing, so we had a team that nobody's going to touch, and I couldn't get back in the lineup. So I was sitting there, and nothing gets you. I hate getting dressed and sitting there. So with about 5 minutes to go, we were losing by a big 5-1 or something like that. And Bugsy Watson, Brian Watson, he was a pretty smart guy. He owned a restaurant after it.
Yeah, he went to the NHL, played for Washington.
Oh, he played for a long time in the NHL. I didn't. So anyhow, I knew when he put me on the ice after sitting there for the whole time, and Bugsy was really doing a real number on our forwards, knocking them down in front. And you could, in those days, if you stood in front of the net, you had to be tough. Not now. I mean, everybody's.
You stood in front of the net, you were going to get it.
Oh, and the referees would let it go. So our guys were standing in front of the net, and Bugsy was knocking them down. So I went and stood in front of the net. What a fool I was,
Well, did Crozier put you up front?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd forget. I don't know whether. No, he benched Al Arbor. Imagine benching Al Arbor.
So as a defenseman, you just skated to the front of the net.
I just skated up in front of their net, stood there.
Looking for trouble.
Yeah. And sure enough, Bugsy cross-checked me, and that's when I started the whole thing. And Bugsy, he was a pretty tough guy. He could throw him pretty good, but I was one of those guys that could sucker pretty good, and I didn't give him a chance and the whole deal. So I thought, well, I'm not playing. I might as well get thrown out of the game. So and I remember and believe it or not, folks, this is hard to believe, but they had 2 policemen, and were they big policemen, 2 big French policemen. They were really big. So they didn't expect us.
Yeah, excuse me, just to interrupt you, that people, again, remember, you guys were in the same penalty box.
Yeah, like we'd sit at one end and the other, and the police would be between us and all that stuff, right? And as he stepped up, I was in the penalty box waiting for him, and I stepped in between the two policemen, and I corked him pretty good. Boy, were those policemen mad. Boy, you should have heard them in French. And they grabbed my arm, and I couldn't, and more I struggled, and, nothing happened. And I remember Guy Genron, he used to have white tape on a stick, And I saw him on one side, and now I know what he's going to do. He's going around the outside. He keeps his eye on me. He went around to the other side. I know, and the police won't let me go, but I know that he's going to hit me over the head. And he hit me right over the head with a stick. Yeah, so that's actually, I should have been really, really, and I remember Jack Riley saying, the reason that he didn't suspend me in the whole deal is that Genron hit me over the head with a stick.
Well, then I guess Jimmy Papin went after him with a stick.
Yeah, and then Jimmy went after him. He saw him hit me, and Jimmy Papin.
He had no problem using a stick.
Oh, he did.
Jimmy Papin.
Jimmy, he was a good hockey player. I watched those old films back in the 60s and that. He's the one guy, him and Timmy Horton, but Papin could play in today's game easy, and he was big and tough. And I must tell this. Can I tell you one story? When I was with Hockey Night in Canada, we were at the morning skate, and there was a guy that looked just like me. I wish I can't remember his name. And Ron was sitting with Papin, who was a scout for the Chicago. No, it would be Chicago, and a couple of other floaters and everything up there with Chicago. So I holler up to Ron. I said, "No, they're with St. Louis. They're back and forth. They're
They're in the playoffs against St. Louis.
They're in the playoffs against St. Louis." So I holler. I said, "That guy looks like me when I played." And Ron says, "Oh, gee, it was a deciding game." And I said, "Oh, well, we'll get it. We won't put the camera on him this game. We'll put him on the next game." So that means Chicago's going to lose that night.
Yeah.
So it just spread like wildfire. And, the guy with Hockey Night in Canada said that. So now we're waiting for a cab after the game up in front of the Chicago. And he come out and Papin says, "Oh, I hear you. We're going to lose." No, that's I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I did think they were going to lose. So now I'm mad too. As you don't think you're going to win tonight, do you? Yeah, no wonder.
Well, we got a lot. You could tell a lot of stories about Jimmy Papin.
Oh, I could tell you. I remember one time I went to his house, and his little girl, something happened. His little girl wanted a piece of cake. I mean, she was only about 3 or 4, a little daughter. And he said, and he was the cruelest guy in the world. He really was the cruelest guy. He used to, and Jimmy Papin, and he says, "Would you like a little piece of cake?" She says, "Yes, Dad." He said, "No." I mean, I remember he was the guy that used to do all the betting all the time on the horses and everything all the time. And so he went around the whole team. And he said, like this would be a $15,000 claimer, $25,000 claimer.
So he was saying what each player would be.
Yeah, and he came to me and I said, "Hey, Jimmy, you didn't." He said, "You didn't mention me that I." And he said, "Well, Grapes, it's the only thing I got to say is, those horses that carry the gate out, or that pull the gate out?" And he was. I should tell more stories about him. I'll tell you.
But getting back to that brawl, didn't Joe Crozier?
Oh yeah, Joe Crozier gave me $100. Imagine he paid the fine, give me $100. He knew I was in trouble, and I bought a beautiful thing. I remember it was a Scotch thing, eh?
And, bought me a little. I would have been probably 2, maybe.
Yeah, 2 or 3. And I brought it home, and I give the rest of the money to the captain.
What did you buy?
An outfit for Tim.
Like a little hat. Like a little jacket and hat.
Oh, isn't that?
You know that old picture with me with the little Scotch bonnet?
Oh, that red plaid thing.
Yeah.
Is that what you bought for Tim?
Yeah. So I bought that.
You're always Tim's favorite. He'd buy some for Tim.
You always got birds and animals.
Hey?
Cindy always got birds.
Yeah, you
buy clothes for Tim.
Yeah.
Well, he looked good. And I give the rest of the money to Wayne, I think it was Larry Hillman, for the party for the guys.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I remember that fight because it was it was televised.
Yeah, and it was a big deal back then.
It was a big, because everyone came over to our apartment and we were watching the game because Mom had everyone over and because we're, as you said, that's a big deal watching your dad on TV. And then the fight breaks out.
Yeah,
it's sort of cool when you're a little.
I remember Mom saying, Cindy goes, "Mom, Dad's fighting again."
Yeah.
And tell about the story about that series, Doug Harvey.
You want to tell that?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember Joe Crozier saying, I'll never forget that, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name that did it. He said, we're not going to win this series, he says, because Doug Harvey was playing just terrific. I think he was 40-some years old. He was better than anybody. He was terrific. We must talk
He's a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, and I don't know what he was doing for Quebec. He was so good. We're not winning anything. He said, the way Harvey's playing, he's going to win this series and win the championship. And this guy went out and went right over in the corner. I can still see it and broke his hand. That's awful. That shouldn't say that. But anyhow, that's what he did.
Well, that was hockey back then.
That was reality.
Boy, it was tough hockey back.
How did he break it, with a stick? He
just took it and smacked his hand.
And that was it.
Broke his hand.
And then you guys went on to win the championship.
Man, I never thought of that. But we would have won it anyhow. Crozier just said that. I don't think he expected him.
Are you going to name the guy that broke his hand?
No.
No?
And
but you remember.
Oh, I remember. He was about 6'4", 6'5", and he just walked right over and just broke his hand.
Did the Quebec players do anything?
Not on our team, but no, they didn't do anything. You couldn't see it. I was watching because I had a lot of time to watch.
On the bench. You were watching
I was on
from
the bench, and I was watching them.
And you probably knew it was coming.
No, Doug Harvey never dreamed. And he gave it to me. I don't know why Doug Harvey said bad things about me.
Oh.
And I never do anything. I was sitting on the bench. He's a troublemaker, always was a troublemaker. And
maybe he thought you were told the guy to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, basically, that's what Bobby Clark did to that Russian. Broke his ankle. That's what this guy did.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to be too good. Anyhow, we used to go into Quebec. I remember I went into that Quebec Coliseum. It was the most gorgeous building. And I remember the hardwood floor. It was hardwood floor. And, we never saw anything like that before. Hardwood floor. And we with the Barrie Flyers, and we were so good, nobody's going to beat us.
It's just when you were playing junior.
Yeah, it was junior. And they didn't have glass along the side. And I remember Skippy Teal from St. Catharines. I look back, and here is a guy butting a cigarette on his neck.
Like a fan grabbed him.
Fan grabbed him and butted a cigarette on his neck, and the sparks were flying. It was unbelievable. Hockey was great back in those days.
So what happened?
When I
like, did you
back,
I
didn't. We didn't do anything, but Skippy was hitting him with a stick. It was unbelievable.
So when people see stuff on Slapshot, that was rather tame from stuff that you saw.
No, listen, on Slapshot, we did everything. There's two things we never had the guy skating around with no clothes on or anything like that. Yeah. It was ridiculous. But we never ever got stitched up on the bench. We'd always go and sit in the restroom, and and the guy would come in. Must tell about the stories about all my stitches, but we never. Well, we did everything. Listen, if they ever if they could not put on what happened in minor hockey. It was really something back in those days, and I was right in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, I remember Christmas again. This will be the one for Christmas, Cindy. Mom would always have the single guys over for Christmas dinner.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they would always come over because you...
Daryl Sly. Daryl. No, not Daryl. Johnny Johns, Mark Reaume. Boy, when I think of
Bill Sweeney was... Well, he didn't have his wife there, so he came over and bought me a canary.
Well, actually, I bought you the canary.
Oh.
And I just said... And your mother couldn't refuse it. And I'm telling you for the first time that I bought the canary.
Oh, so you knew that Mom, if you said that Bill brought the canary, that she would be mannerly and say, no, you can't have it. So you bought the canary and made Bill give it to me. And I was so excited. I never knew that.
Well, now you know. And
so you get because you.
Yeah, we used to bring all the single guys.
Because I don't remember. You seem to be more would you play Christmas Eve or Christmas Day?
Well, here's what we did. And back in those days, you always played Christmas Day. So we used to have on Christmas Eve. We used to have Christmas Day. We used to, because we'd leave right after the game, and and I must tell a story. I don't know whether I told the story, but I'm going to tell it on. Is that on Christmas Day, every day I'd have a steak. And I said, this day I'm going to have turkey. And I'm eating turkey and everything. So I figured, I always had a guilty conscience playing that game. And Guy Rousseau, I never forgot his name, a little blonde-haired guy. He was one of those guys that when you went out to check him, he'd see you coming and he'd jump and turn backwards, and he'd really hurt you. He'd really hurt you in doing that. Who used to do that was Kent Douglas used to do. When a guy come out to hit him, he'd turn and jump at him. Anyhow, I go to hit this guy, and Guy turned and hit me for a blast right in the stomach. And I hate to tell you, I was sick to my stomach. And
on the ice,
and I never, ever had anything but steak after that. But I remember that game. That was the only time. You know what I remember? I remember and we used to, at 4:30 in the morning, I used to be awake all the time. And I see the farmers getting up to milk their cows. And at Christmas, Christmas Eve, didn't matter.
So you'd be on the bus?
I'd be on the bus awake, and I'd see them about 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, all the farmers. And these things. Imagine these guys get up and everything like that. I could go on and on about the bus. I'll tell you one more story about the bus. And one time, so I'm up, and all the rest of the guys are sleeping. And I look in the distance, and I see these big, tall buildings, and we're on the one side, and I said, "Gee, that looks like New York." I saw pictures of New York. So I said to the driver, I said, Are you sure we're going? I said, "We're supposed to be going to Cleveland." He said, "Well, no." I said, "I don't think Cleveland's got big things like that." And he said, he says, "I made the wrong turn." So he got off, and I was just a player, and he turned around. So I woke up the coach, I think it was Crozier, and I said, "We're going to be, we're good. We're going to get in just before." "What do you mean?" I said, he says, "Well, we made a wrong turn, and there's a turn you could go one way or go the other." And the distance, good job, I saw this. And we made it just in time. And if you look at it, it had to be an afternoon game, naturally. Yeah. Sunday, Christmas Day. And we made it just in time. About a half hour before the game, we got dressed out. I don't know if we won or not. But this bus driver, he was taking us to New York. And we had to do the U-turn. And we just got in time. And good job, I was awake. I don't know what he was. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys went up Madison Square Garden.
We could have played in there, but we got in time. I don't know whether we won or not, but I remember the panic look on that guy's face.
Oh, that would be an awful feeling.
I said, that looks like New York to me. I see pictures.
Well, you, Mom and you carried on that tradition of having guys over, and when you also coached, you used. And how many times could you imagine now a coach would bring over the single guys? They're a first time away from home, and all. And we always had. Remember, John came over, and Gary Braden, and all the single guys for Christmas dinner. And stuff. So, but that was the type of mom, that's the type of, and what a great relationship you would have with the players that you would bring them over to the house.
Well, I played with them, and I must go over sometime and I played with them for half a season, then I got made coach. And then I went the next year when I was made coach, I used to bring them over. I had a pretty good relationship, and I was general manager and coach. Well, with some guys I had a good relationship, other guys I didn't. But it was a lot of fun. I had more fun in Rochester. That's the greatest city. And not too big, and it's not too small. And I played there for I think it was 6 years. How many years did I play? I must go into that though. But it was a lot of fun. Rochester, New York, and we seem to be going on and on and on.
Yep. So, well, Dad, we just want to say again, thanks to all the listeners. Apple voted us the best or the biggest podcast of 2020. That was a real honor.
Yeah, you phoned me and told me that. Hey,
so we'd like to thank all the people at Apple. We'd like to thank all the listeners.
And our sponsors.
And our sponsors, spreads.ca. They'll be happy hockey's coming back, and it'll be fun betting this year, because we'll talk a little bit about the NHL next week, because now there's rumors going on that there might not be a Canadian division. From what I heard, that there's one province giving the NHL a hard time.
I wonder what province that is.
Should we guess? I don't know. I don't.
Oh, no.
No. Well, I don't think it's Ontario, and I don't think it's Quebec, and I don't think it's Alberta. So it's got to be one of the other two.
Saskatchewan? Is that?
No, it would be no.
Oh, BC.
BC or Manitoba.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be one of those two. Because I can't see Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario.
No, he knows what's going
He'd
on.
go, come on. And I think if the people of Quebec found out that the government's not going to let Montreal play, they'd burn down the thing. And then Alberta, you figure they have the World Juniors there, right? So they're kind of must be.
Well, we
cool.
should know in a week anyhow.
We'll know what's going on, yeah. But we'll talk a little about that a little bit more. And the big thing that
I like to talk about. I hate to interrupt. I'd like to talk more about Milbury. I got some more stories about Milbury.
We'll talk about Mike Milbury.
Mike Milbury and Al Strachan's book. I read it in 2 days, and it's one of those books. Like I told you, you start reading. Oh, I'll read one a little more, and it's a great book.
Okay, so I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and hope everybody has a good Christmas, and we'll be back next week.
Well, we hope Lord will be back, and I'd just like to say it before we start. Frontline workers again, and paramedics, and the police, and the fire people, and firemen. No, I can't call them firemen. For the work they do great work, and God love you all. Merry Christmas.